Hey! Hola! Muthoni here. So, I'm just gonna get right into it. Excuse my ratchetness. I woke up like a while ago and just started finishing up on this project so that I can get it to you. So, today's video is about how I made this shelf and how I made it by myself. And it was a lot of struggle. But I really love the way it turned out. It looks really cool. I really I feel like I need to lean lower. I really like it, and I just finished putting some stuff on it. The reason I wanted it was to be able to store some of my things because I didn't want everything to just be locked up in the closet. So I wanted to have some like things, quick access to things, a place to put my camera, and Nini's awards for now because we're creating a new shelf for this one. So it's going to be like somewhere everyone can see them. This is the wood that I used. It's a block board, but it couldn't fit in the lift, so I had to cut it into 2 pieces. And I did this downstairs. My phone was dying, so I wasn't able to record. So these are some of the things you will need. You will need a jigsaw, a pencil, and what is this thing called? A tape measure. And then a ruler if you have a long one. I didn't have one, so I ended up using this cable trunk. Thank you to everyone who told me what this was. A sander, a drill, a hammer, wood glue, sanding paper, safety glasses, and nails. So the first thing I did was, get rid of the piece of wood that I wasn't going to use, the block that I wasn't going to use. And then I measured to decide how long, or rather how deep I wanted my shelf to be. So this is like from the wall coming out. So initially I wanted to do 15 inches, but if I did 15 inches, I wasn't going to have enough to do the sections uko ndani. So I decided to just do 12 inches. So I measured 12 inches from this blockboard. I was going to get 4 nice pieces, which were going to work for me because I needed 3 levels and then pieces to divide the insides, to make this 2 levels. So what I did here was now I measured the 12 inches from the edge and then measured from the top all the way to the bottom. Truth be told, you just need the top and the bottom if you have a long ruler, because the ones inside Makeover, they didn't really make a difference because some of them went exactly where they needed to be. Then you'll use this long quote-unquote ruler to attach the bottom where you marked at the bottom and at the top and make a straight line, because this is what you are going to cut. Alrighty, so this is what I was using that cable trunk because it was the longest, straightest thing I had lying around, because I've been looking for a ruler and I couldn't find one that was longer than than 100 centimeters, which is just 1 meter, and I wanted something a bit longer. But if you know a place where I can get a long ruler, please let me know. Thank you very much. So after doing this, it's now time to cut this board. So what I did was I leaned it on a chair, and then the idea was now to just cut it when it was leaning down because it's a pretty long piece of wood. And at the same time, I really didn't have I don't have a long table or anything. Now I'm like over here rethinking these things. I'm like, I really need to invest in a long table or make one. When I started cutting, when I started to go in with the jigsaw, I noticed that it moved. So what I did, you'll see here, what I did was I decided to push it, and the corner, I don't know how to explain this, I made sure that the edge on the other side, the one that's not being cut right now, was caught in the corner between the floor and the wall going up. Yes, that's the best way to explain it. Then you can see over there. So this made it stable and it was easier for me to cut because now it wasn't moving anymore. So at this point, I just went in with this jigsaw. This is why I really wish I had a circular saw, because one, it would have been faster and easier and, straighter, because I really did mess this one up. I was really scared that it wasn't going to be straight, which 90% of the time it wasn't. But this goes on for a while. So, yeah. After that, I went almost all the way down, then I flipped it so that now the side that had been cut was on the edge, and then finished the top off like that, because on the other side I couldn't cut it without hitting the floor. So that first bit is done, and then I did this 2 more times, 3 more times, 2 more times to make 4 boards. I can't tell how many more times I did. So I was using the first piece to align. After that, I took my sanding machine. You can use a blockboard or sanding paper, and I just sanded all the edges. Okay, so this is like the chipped parts, the parts that were going, to the river when I was cutting. Just sand that down nicely. Then after that, it was now time to decide how wide I wanted my layers to be. So at first, again, wanted to do 15 inches. But 15 inches was a little too much, so I ended up doing 14 because I wanted to be, to at least have 4 pieces, because I wanted 4 pieces for the whole thing. So I did 14, measured with the thingy, with the tape measure, then cut it, then used that fast board to measure the others. That way they were almost the same. I say almost because at the end they weren't exactly the same, but they were all 14 inches. It just, left, right, and center and moving. So after that, it was time to align. Okay, so this one is that one for figuring out which board goes where, which side is going to be up, which side is going to be down, which at this point, I was like, oh, this one looks softer, this one looks smoother. So what I did is I made sure that the flat part, like the parts that were the flattest, were the ones that were facing the floor. That way, because the floor is already straight, so there's no randomness. Made sure they were facing the floor, and then that was going to be the quote-unquote front part of the, the shelf. Then I took my wood glue, Kimalamala, poured it on that edge, and then it was time to attach. So the first thing I did here was use a spirit meter to try and align and make sure it was straight. Didn't help much, so don't bother. Then I nailed it in, and that was the first piece. Yay! Then I put in now the centerpiece. The first one, I actually wanted to just have one. Initially I wanted 3 pieces, but I'm glad I had 4 because the 4th one really came in handy. So it was time to put the centerpiece, and then I realized it wasn't straight. Remember that thing I was telling you about not having straight things? It wasn't straight. I sanded it, cut it kidogo, put in the glue, added the glue, and then tried to now attach the centerpiece. And then same process, this is repeating what I did up there. Measure from the edge to make sure that everything is straight and then that the spacing is equal. Then I attached it with a nail. You'll find out later how this was a bad idea. Here we go. So again, added the other pieces, just same process over here, and then measure. So you measure from the edge to confirm that where it sits on the upper board is the same place it sits on the lower board, because these boards are exactly the same length. So after that, after deciding where each piece is going, again, did the wood glue and tried to attach it with nails. So this is where the extreme spot thing began. When I was nailing this particular piece down, the middle piece, this long middle piece, started moving because these nails are not that strong. I don't like large, wide nails. I do have them, but I didn't want to use them. I was using smaller nails because I was like, if I use small and mini, I'm good. So when I was hitting this, you can see it's coming apart, and I was like, oh my God. So I had to now, rethink this, because when I was nailing this, I was like, now by the time I'm doing the second piece, this thing will be forever gone. So what I did was, as I nailed, this kept coming apart. I didn't notice until later on. So at that point is when I had to change my mind and make a decision to go another way. So I removed all these nails and decided I was going to now use wood screws instead, which are a bit longer, and also, if I thought of it, they are actually a lot neater. So here I am now screwing in the first bit, because at least that part was still almost intact, so it wasn't that hard. So I just screwed that in, and then what I was doing is I would go in with a larger screw bit just to create enough. I would put in first a hole with a small screw bit, and then just go in with my screwdriver, which is also a part of the drill. Then I did the process for all the other, and then I flipped it and did this last bit, which was now supposed to be the bottom or the top. So I flipped it over, put this, and then repeated the process with the, what's it called? the drill and the screws. So I painted it after that into the night. That's why I didn't show that, because it was pretty dark. And then now this is like the next afternoon, and I wouldn't advise you to do it this way because this is doing stuff kimalamala. But these wood blocks are blocks that I had turned into dice before, and I was like, because I wanted my shelf to be a bit lifted off the ground for easier cleaning. It was either doing wheels or doing a wood block. So I was like, I have these wood blocks that I no longer use. Why not turn them into feet? And they look pretty cute because they look like dice anyway, because they're already decorated and they have beautiful colors in them. So I just screwed them in. I didn't do all the way because my plan was to just have the block secure, and then I flip it over so that I can now just finish the process and make it look neat. So this was just to hold on to everything. So this is me unscrewing it and then going in with a larger drill bit to create a bit of a hole where the screw head will sit on. Oh my god, yeah, this is just to make stuff look neat. So just a bit larger, then screw the screws back in. Screw the screws back in, and then I did this for all 4 of them. After that, I ended up painting it again with a second coat because I didn't like the first coat wasn't the best. So I went in with a second coat, and then it was, well, I left it to dry before it was ready. And after it was ready, it was time to set up. So yeah, so this took me about, I did an entire afternoon. Yes, it took an entire afternoon into the night. So let's say it was about 10 hours. But also please note I was working alone. I'll say this, if you are going to try this, have someone help you. Wow. Have someone help you, because carrying and moving this stuff around it was hectic. Secondly, don't get the same blockboard I got. The one I got didn't have a good finish. So even when I sand it, like on top, you can't tell from over here, but when I sand it, it has like these things that come off that look like hair. So it's very weird, and I didn't know until I started sanding it. So get those ones that have like a really smooth plywood finish on top. In total, this cost about, so the blockboard was about 4,500. Was 4,500. This is a 3/4 inch blockboard, was 4,500, and I used 2/3, let's say, not even 2/3, because I didn't use 3/4. Let's say about 2/3 of it for this, and I have the other bit left, which is for something that I'm doing on the wall. So that's gonna be an upcoming DIY. I hope you really liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. That way I know that you did, because how else will I know if you don't tell me? Leave a comment down below. Leave a comment down below if you have anything nice, weird, or interesting to say. And don't forget, Nick and I are still doing the Q&A videos. So if you have any questions, please leave them below. That's it for today, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.